Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's just go around the room real quick. I just want to get an idea of my audience. So if we can go around the room and give me your name and what you're doing right now and what you want to be doing. Okay, can we do that? Okay, this is going to be interactive. You're going to have to give me a little bit more than this. All right, and we're going to start right here in front.
Perfect. My name's Dane, and I actually just enrolled today. So
Nice.
I haven't
Congratulations.
got started, but I'm not sure where I'm going with it, but excited to learn.
Okay, very cool.
Hey, David, I'm an online advertising guy. I'm out of debt, but I'm moving here from New York, so just exploring.
It's supposed to be on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
I'm Jackson. I finished the program here. At the moment, I'm learning React to do a bit of internship work here, hopefully. And I'd really like to work in Django development.
Very cool.
I'm Yasin. I'm a student at the Tech Academy. Been here for a few weeks now, and I'm in the sequel part of it. Where I want to be is working as a developer.
Okay. Anywhere in particular?
No. I've narrowed that down.
Yeah.
Jason, currently just working on a few little personal projects. One's a Django project. Look at maybe 5 years down the road, or like TAM roles, stuff like that. Right now I'm just looking for foot in the door, some any place.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm Carrie. I'm a senior developer team lead. I've been working in .NET and React recently, and I was just released from my employment of 25 years. So I am starting my search for my new team.
Where from, if I can ask?
CDK Global.
I'm Richard. I'm a student here at the Tech Academy. I just started about a month or two ago, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm good at still.
Very good.
My name's Eric, full stack developer, between jobs right now, so I'm looking for a new position in the area.
My name's Sarah. I just finished up at another code school, and I've been focusing mostly on the C#.NET track. I live in day jobs developer.
My name is Marty. I'm currently a research scientist looking to move into software development, maybe still tied to sciences, but
Very cool.
I'm Kyle. I'm working as a software engineer for a few years, but took some time off, so now I'm trying to land my next job and just hear what's out there.
My name's David. Looking to turn a hobby into a career, and I just want to see success might be able to go forward.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Miguel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Kate. I'm a student here. I'm in the job placement. The job
Name's Miguel. I'm a little halfway through the program. I'm hoping to find a job after I graduate.
My name's Anthony. I'm a student here at the Tech Academy, and mostly just looking to get the career started and kind of figure out where to go from there.
Sounds good.
Hi, I'm Scott. I'm a student here as well, and I just got hired on as a boy.
Very cool.
My name's Aaron. I just got my software engineering degree. Looking for work. Looking to get into C#, .NET, MVC, web application.
I'm Rick, and I just started in that program. I'm not sure what the future holds.
Cool.
Jason, just finished my degree in computer science. I'm just curious. What's around here?
I'm Michael. I'm a student here, just finishing up at the Tech Academy. Rather be working.
I'm Shad. I do business development for IT staffing firm.
Nice.
And I'm here to learn something new.
Met you at Founders Farm, right?
Recently,
Nice.
nice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good to see you.
I'm Rhonda. I work with
Nice. Very cool. And did I miss anybody else over here like that? Sure.
I'm Aaron. I'm the job placement director here at the Tech Academy.
Nice to meet you.
How are you a student here? Tech Academy started around 2 months ago. So went through the HTML CSS course.
Very good.
Enjoying it a lot. So, yeah, I've learned a lot about the IT job market.
Cool. I mean, how how many applications do you think Google gets for every open dev position that they have? Thousands, yeah. Same with any tech company that people dream about working at. I mean, Apple gets, I think it's about 5,000 per open position. Google's a little bit higher, I think it's about 7,000 per position. It's impossible to stand out, or it can feel that way at least. So there are a lot of things you can do to get a job. So there are kind of two ways to go about this. You either have to know someone or be someone. So when I say be someone, you have to have a resume that stands out. So if you're submitting into an application portal, having a resume that will come to the top of the pile is really important, because odds are your application just won't be seen by a human being at the company that you're applying to. So if you know someone, that's the best way to go about it, which is why working with a recruiter can honestly be really helpful. Does anyone have any negative perceptions of recruiters? Anyone? Awesome. Yeah? What stereotypes have you heard, or what? I want to address this because sometimes I get this from people where they're like, well, you're just trying to make money off of me, you don't see me as a person, you see me as a number, and I want to make sure that we dispel any of that. So I just want to see what have you heard, or what have you experienced?
Experience some of it is just they are just throwing any type of job at you, regardless of what you're really looking for.
Really? In tech positions, or just anything? Or?
Yeah, tech positions.
Yeah. So I've run into it more online than in person, but people will say, negative things about recruiters, or that we're just trying to make money off of you. And honestly, what I do is I can be the person that you know. So if you need somebody, if you're trying to get in the door at a big tech company, they will hire someone that they know over someone that they don't know, even if you're less qualified, because it's about risk mitigation. So if they know you, even if you're not as qualified as some of the people whose applications that they're seeing, they'll hire you because you're a known quantity. They're not going to get in the door and go, oh my God, this person completely lied, they're crazy, I can't deal with this. If they know you, they trust you, and they have so much better chance of working with you than if you just apply. So some of you found us on Meetup. How many of you have been going to meetups or Eventbrites to try to meet people? Yeah? Good. That is the best thing you can do, is just meeting people. If you can, find out on LinkedIn the types of people that work at these companies, where they hang out, find the bar that's next to their building, be where they're at. If somebody's giving a talk, show up, come introduce yourself afterwards, make a connection. You guys can feel free to stop me with questions at any time. Not that you're a talkative group. Okay, tough crowd. All right. So in picking your targets, does anybody have them? So nobody here has a specific company that they're looking at. Do you have a specific type of company you're looking at, or an industry, or are you just looking at the technologies that you want to use and trying to find positions that match that skill set? That? Okay.
I'm specifically looking for a smaller company.
Okay.
A smaller engineering team, maybe 6 to 10 people. I have no interest in big units like Google or
Yeah. That's good. It's a lot easier to get hired at smaller companies than it is to get, Google. So when you're trying to pick out a company, if you have a company that you're interested in, make sure you know about the company. So when you get the chance to meet somebody at a meetup or at some sort of event or a bar, know enough about the company to impress them. That they know you're interested, that you looked them up, that you went out of your way to find out more about where they work. If you set Google alerts or job alerts, because a lot of these companies, when they post a job, they'll have an ability for you to be notified what that job is. You can create a skill profile that matches your abilities, and then you'll know when those jobs come out. So make sure you're doing that. Yeah, so we kind of talked about recruiters a little bit already. You'll find I'm kind of freewheeling. I talk a lot. It's my job. So if I jump all over the place, that's not my intention. But one of the things that people come at me with is the right to represent. Has anybody signed a right to represent before for a position? Okay. Yeah. So this is one of the things that I get pushback on sometimes, of somebody saying, oh, you're just trying to lock me up and make sure that you're going to make money off of me. The reason that we have the right to represent is because if I go to a company and submit your information and it's wrong, or I don't have your permission to do so, I can get sued. And so by having the right to represent, first of all, it should only be for one position. So if anybody wants you to sign a right to represent where they can only represent you for everything, and you can't apply to any other jobs without going through them, run. That's not okay. That's not typical, and it's not okay. So make sure that the right to represent, obviously read it before you sign anything. Just make sure it's for that one position only. So do you know how I do my job or how a recruiter at a top company does their job? Does anybody have you thought through the process of like, okay, I'm throwing out my resume or I'm applying to something? Have you thought about it from the other perspective of how that person is finding you? God, it's like talked up in the org up in here.
Probably, I'm sure they're writing your resume through a filter for keywords. Is probably the first thing they're doing.
Yeah.
Doing resume.
Exactly, yeah. It is all keyword search. This is the biggest thing that I see with people. Like my best friend, been my best friend since I was 4 years old, brilliant coder. He's currently working as a senior data analyst at a multi-billion-dollar financial institution. He was looking for other jobs, and he sent me his resume because he wasn't getting anything back. So you're one of the most qualified people I know. You should be getting a lot of attention. Send me your resume. Let me see what we can fix on it. And he was doing things like putting experienced in relational databases, and that was all he put. Most tech recruiters don't know what that is. They will see a keyword, so when we get a job description from a client, they need to know exactly what the technology is, and they will look for specifically that. So if you know MongoDB or MySQL or whatever the technology is that you've used or you're experienced in, list it, every single one of them. Put every word on the page. If you look at these two resumes, so these are both people that do the same thing. They're both roughly as qualified as each other, but the person on the bottom has fallen into the trap of trying to keep their resume short. A lot of the advice out there about putting together a resume is keep it on one page, which is great if you're a product marketer or a business operations analyst. If you're in tech and you're trying to put your job or you're trying to put yourself out there online to get attention from recruiters, we need this top resume. He has listed every single technology out of the 535,000 full stack developer resumes that we have in our systems. This one comes up very first. So when I type full stack developer into our software, that's the one I see.
Are all 5 pages of the top the one resume?
Yep, yeah, this is one and this is one. So you've got 5 pages versus 2. So if you go into an in-person interview, you can cut it down to a 1 or 2 page resume so that they can look over it, but you can talk through it. As far as being found online, list all of it. Put the technologies you've used, where you've used them, how you've used them. When somebody searches for something, you can see, so I just put in full stack developer, you can see the yellow highlight. It's kind of blurry, you might not be able to see it, I can see it. But the more of the sheet that's lit up yellow from those keywords, the better chance you have of getting the call, getting submitted, getting hired. So when I talk to somebody, and somebody on my team talks to somebody, I'm learning as much as I can about you to help sell you to the hiring manager. So every time I have a new position that I need to fill, I've talked to the hiring manager, I know exactly what they're looking for, the kind of culture of the company and their team, exactly what they want sitting in that chair when somebody starts. So when we're talking to you on the phone, that's what we're trying to suss out, is who are you and are you going to be a good fit? So that then when I turn around and go back to the client, I can sell you in particular. They're not just going off of a piece of paper. You have somebody that they know. Yeah?
You put a long version of your resume online, and cut it down and take that to the interview, you will have a different copy that they have.
So they'll usually have the original one as well, and sometimes they like having the brief one. So as long as they know that there's the two and it's just one is more concise than the other, it's not a problem. It's just, it looks good. Yeah. Yeah. And that way if somebody says, oh, this resume is really too long, you go, well, I also have this one if it's easier for you to read.
If they have a job description that you're specifically applying for,
Mhm.
you may just go for a shorter resume and just only include those keywords that are
Yeah.
job
So if you're trying to go for a specific job, this is one of the things that I tell everyone I talk to: build a specific resume to each job, not each like position that you're applying to, but build out a full stack developer resume and a back-end developer resume and a middleware resume, because they're looking for specialists, not generalists. So everybody wants to put all of their experience on their resume to show that they're a well-rounded person. So if a problem comes up, it's easy for you to solve it, and they know beforehand that you've got all of these extra skills. They don't want to see that. They're not interested in that. So you want a specific resume to every single type of position that you're talking to. So in less technical groups, like some people will have kind of varied experience in business operations, sales, account management, and customer service. And they want to list all of that on one resume and send that out to each sales position, each customer service position. And honestly, you're getting thrown out. No one's reading that. So it really helps to have a targeted resume for every type of position you're applying to. Does that make sense? All right. So in applying directly, I already kind of talked about it a little bit. I mean, for a company that's getting 3,000 to 7,000 resumes for every position, all they're doing is the same thing that any agency is doing, which is taking in a lot of resumes online and then just keeping them in their databases. And then when they have something comes up that you're a good fit for, they call you, not before. So if you've applied to a specific job, haven't had enough coffee yet. If you're applying to a specific job, the chances that your resume is even getting looked at are minimal, like really, really minimal. So you kind of have to play the game. So the things that I recommend to people, if you're applying to a job, go through their exact job description, take about 30 keywords and paste them at the bottom of your resume and put them in white and in very small font. So I won't see it just looking at it printed out, but it's going to get caught by their algorithm that's pulling up the resumes, moves you right to the top of the stack. So I know people that have gotten jobs at Merrill Lynch, Lockheed Martin, and I think it was Wells Fargo, just to name the three biggest, by applying directly purely because they did that. So you're just guaranteeing that a human being is actually going to look at your resume. So some people feel uncomfortable doing it because they feel like it's cheating. It's not. You're just making sure that your work is going to be appreciated. You're going to get somebody looking at your resume. So even if you don't get the job, you at least know that someone looked at your resume. I think that's fair.
Even if you're just saying put all the keywords in to get past the LTS.
Yep.
Even if you don't have experience in those things?
Well, no, don't lie about it. I'm just saying, so if you're applying to a position, make sure that you're using the exact verbiage that they're using. So if you're applying to a full stack position and you're a full stack developer, make sure you've got the exact same words that they're using, because those are the resumes that are going to get seen. Any other questions on that? Does that make sense? Does that make anybody uncomfortable?
So I use LaTeX for writing my resume. And
You use what?
LaTeX.
Okay.
And so I know that it will actually like structure the metadata differently in like any PDFs that you generate. Do you know if that would be an issue then?
I don't think that would make a difference. I think it's just pulling the word recognition.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that has any bearing on it. Yeah.
PDF okay or?
Usually, yeah. So for most things, so Word doc is, I mean, as much as we all hate Office, or at least I do, maybe I'm just projecting, but I hate Office, but everything is still, yeah.
Depending on the viewer, sometimes it moves things.
Yeah. So usually they prefer .doc or .docx files. Like for us personally, when we submit somebody, it has to be in one of those formats. So if you send me a PDF, I mean, it'll still work, but I'm going to have to take all of that data, paste it into a Word document, and reformat it. But it's okay because I have to format the resume anyway. So every single company that we work with has a very specific way that they want their resumes to look. So every resume is absolutely identical. It's just the content that's different. So yeah, PDFs work in most cases. Did this go ahead? Sorry, I think I quiet there. Oh, okay. everybody can hear me, right? You can hear me, okay. Yeah, so it works, but depending on who you're working with, it could be an issue. So the main takeaways here, if you remember nothing else, make sure you're writing specific resumes for every position that you're applying for, every type of position that you're applying for. Put every single one of your your keywords in there, and then upload all of them to every job board you can find. So when we go through, we're pulling resumes off of Career Builder, Monster, Dice, LinkedIn. We go to GitHub and Stack Overflow. In fact, I know several friends that have gotten job interviews or job offers simply from their Stack Overflow profile, where somebody just sees them offering incredible advice to somebody else, goes, "That's brilliant. We want you on our team." So try to be everywhere. You kind of have to focus on your job search as though it is a full-time job, if not more so. And add those keywords to the bottom of every resume that you submit. If you're applying directly to a company, put the keywords in there. And that was a little bit quicker than I meant it to be, but you guys don't talk much.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Cover letters, important or not?
What's that?
Cover letters.
Cover letters. If you're working with a company specifically, sometimes yes. For us, don't bother. If I get a cover letter with a resume, it goes straight in the trash. We don't read it, we don't have time for it. So if you're working with a hiring manager specifically, then yes. Because you can actually write a cover letter to them, to what they're doing and their team. For the most part, no, you're wasting your time. Yeah.
How about prior work experience that is not in the field that you're trying to get into?
So most places will need to see the entire work history, so they don't want to see any gaps. Like if somebody was a mother, like had a newborn, and they were out of the workforce for like 4 to 6 months, they'll want to see, from April to July was, on maternity leave. If you have non-relevant work experience, just minimize it. You include it. Highlight anything in there that is applicable to what you're applying to, but just make sure that you're filling out the more directly applicable sections better. So you've got like 1 or 2 bullet points versus like 4.
How do you avoid, like, a lot of the jobs that I've found, I can only find the staffing company that is posting the job. Like, I never can actually find the job itself.
A lot of companies only go through staffing agencies, especially with these big tech companies, because they have so many resumes. They use us to pre-screen people. So if I come to them and go, "I've got an amazing person for you," they go, "Okay, great, I want to talk to them," instead of having to look through 1,000 resumes. What else? Yeah.
Are staffing agencies different than recruiters, and how so?
So in-house recruiters, or a recruiter at Google?
So, like a staffing agency that I see online, like Macrospace per se, how is that, and how different is that than like what you do?
So every agency is different a little bit. I mean, they kind of broadly do the same type of things, but a lot of them will specialize in different areas. So we are an IT specialized firm, so we will do a lot of different kind of work, but all of it kind of has to have some sort of technology in use. So like an admin assistant we can work with because they're using Office and whatever scheduling platform they're using. But we can't do anything like if you're lifting more than 15 pounds, our insurance won't cover that, so we can't do that. And our biggest pipeline of candidates, so when I talk to somebody, if I've got a role that's opening up or I meet somebody in a position like this, I will take their resume, have a conversation with them, put them in my pipeline, and then when I have a position that opens up that's specifically for them or their skill set, I go directly to that person. So for all of the positions that we have in all of the markets that we're in, and we're global, we've got between a dozen and 1,000 qualified candidates ready to go at any time. Did that answer the question?
I'm just thinking like when I'm looking through job listings on like Glassdoor, and I see a bunch of listings for different positions, all from that staffing company.
Yeah.
If I apply to a position, am I actually applying to that position, or am I just putting myself into their database of candidates?
So you're just putting yourself into their database of candidates. if they're good at their job, then they'll consider you for all of the positions they have that you would be applicable for. Sometimes it's just for the one, but hopefully they're using your talent a little bit more wisely than that.
So I just got offered a job today, and
Nice. Congratulations.
thank you. I already have plans. But I have an interview with my final interview with Google like on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was like I'm going through the recruiters, but I also went through multiple interview processes in person and
Yeah.
phone with the actual company. I wasn't sure like, but well, I just was honest with them and said, hey, I got an interview on Tuesday, so I want to make sure I can still do that. You know? What do you think is the upgrade I didn't get there?
It's bad. Telling them. First of all, it betters your position because they know other people want you. They can negotiate a little bit more with you. And just letting them know up front. Like when we go through a submission process with somebody when we're going to put them into a job, we want to know up front, what vacations do you have coming up? What other potential issues are there? We want to know as much as we can going into it because then I look better. Because if you show up and 2 weeks in, you turn to your manager and go, now remember the week that I'm taking off next month and they don't know about it, I'm going to get a nasty phone call. So just letting everybody know about, you have other things open. That's one of the questions that we ask is, what other positions are you interviewing for? And do you have any potential offers coming? Because we want to know all of that. So that was good that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and one of the things they immediately did was like, what's the company and how much are they offering you? And they said they were going to go back to the client and renegotiate.
Yeah, so knowing where you're applying to or what you're talking about, it's helpful to us because we know if you're serious about this exact type of work. So like if I'm trying to fill, a network engineer role, and then they tell me that they're also up for like an iOS developer role, are they really that serious about network engineering? So knowing what you're working on, and then knowing what kind of compensation we're up against, and what other factors there are in deciding which job to take. So is it going to come down to commute, or paycheck, or where you work, or work-life balance? We want to know all of that. So if somebody comes back to us and says, I'm sorry, I've accepted another position, I'm no longer interested in this one, and you've got an offer, again, we look bad.
What would you do if I did get the Google job and then I wanted to go to that? What's the proper way to get there?
I mean, congratulations. But, you're going to make your decision. It's just as long as you keep everybody in the loop, who can be upset?
So I just say, hey, thank you for the opportunity.
It's a marketplace.
Yeah.
You have no altruism, you have no loyalty to any of these companies. Just let them know, like, hey, I've gotten a better offer, I'm taking it. We respect that. Or we should. I do, at least. Yeah.
When you target your resume for each position, I would just be concerned about the inconsistency with my portfolio, my resume, my note, because at the moment it says full stack web development, but then if I go for a back end development position and I change the name of my position, and then I go for a front end development position and I change the name of my position, you're going to be like, well, what is she?
Yeah, so that's not typically something that we see is somebody that has their own website with a title at the top of it like that. For most people, they're just uploading resumes into Dice and Monster and LinkedIn, and I'll only find the one that comes up in my search. So I'm not going to see all of this other, if you put in 6 of them, I'm only going to find one in my search. So as long as you're not like making stuff up or moving stuff in the timeline or off of the resume completely, as long as it's got all of your work history, it's just highlighting one particular thing, it's perfect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess if I'm just calling myself something different and then they click on my website and it says I'm something else.
Yeah.
I would just.
And for that, you would have to be more consistent. But for those that don't have that, yeah.
So for most of us who are at the coding boot camp, I think most of us are trying to make a pivot, right?
Yeah.
So what are some things that you would say we should do
Yeah,
or not
as,
do.
yeah, as many projects as you can work on, or as many internships as you can do, the better, because you can list that as work experience. So if you do a project with, Safeway, I don't know if they have, an internship or a project that you can work on, if you can put a company name and what technologies you worked on, that's great. As far as pivoting, that's why knowing someone is so important, is because you can either know someone or be someone. So if you already are somebody, you have 20 years experience in exactly what you're trying to get hired for, and those people don't have to apply to positions. If you look at people that have been doing what they're doing for a long time and are good at it, they're getting calls all the time. I mean, I consistently talk to people that go, God, please take me off of your list because I've gotten 18 calls this week about open positions and I'm happy where I'm at. So in knowing someone, that's why coming to events is so important, and why working with someone like me is important, because I can talk to you, I can understand what your skill set is, how you would fit into the company, then I can turn around and tell the client you'd be a great fit, and I can coach you for your interview and help you try to get that position.
Any other tips on how to research company, as in things like team structure and company culture, those kinds of things? How do you figure out what you want to target?
Yeah, so if you're willing to invest a little bit in it, things like Discover.org are really great. They'll give you like an actual org chart and the names and contact info of the people in their IT departments. Looking at any of the business directories, so like TechCrunch or God, there's like 1,000 of them. Just looking up a business directory, trying to see if you can figure out the org chart and how the company operates. You can also get a lot of information from just reading the news about them. So the more you know about the company overall, the better idea you get of what they're trying to do, how they work, the kind of people in their organization. So anytime you see a quote from somebody, find them on LinkedIn, see who else they're connected to in the organization. LinkedIn, like Recruiter or Sales Navigator or Premium, are really great tools for connecting with these people and trying to understand who all is in the organization, how they operate.
Will that help you with like methodology? I mean, are they doing agile, or can you get that from the new
Yeah,
stuff too?
look at the job descriptions that are up.
It'll tell you.
Yeah, because almost always they'll list out at least most of the technologies or methodologies like Agile or Scrum that they're using. So if you can find like past jobs that were open or have been filled, see if you can find somebody else who's doing that same job at the company and look at their resume. See if you can structure your LinkedIn like theirs to better match what they're looking for, what you already know they've hired.
Do you know, is Glassdoor a good resource, or is that just full
It's mostly
of
crap.
people?
Yeah, Glassdoor is like Yelp. It occasionally offers a little bit of value, but professionally, no, I don't ever use it.
What about Indeed?
Indeed, yeah, I definitely put your resume on Indeed. That's one of the, I think we have 6 systems that we back end into. So we search, like we'll search individually in Career Builder and Monster and Dice and Indeed and the ladders occasionally, but yeah, put your resume everywhere. Be everywhere all the time, always. Yeah. Anything else? Do you feel like you got any value out of this? Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah.
You said so after it goes through a filter, when it comes, let's say you run the resume through a filter,
Yeah.
it comes to you. How much effort do you put into reading it?
Depends on the position. So if I'm filling like an admin assistant role, have they worked as an admin assistant before? Do they know Office? Great, I'm going to call them. If it's a much more senior role or development role, I'm going to do a lot more research into the types of technologies that you've used, which is why it's important to list all of them. So if you put like, you worked at this company from 2012 to 2014 and you use these technologies there and you use them to do this, that's the best thing you can do to give me an understanding of your skill set and help me get you in a role.
What about entry-level positions or junior-level positions?
I mean, we do everything from like a 3-month entry-level project role all the way up to a 3-year SOW assignment for a 10-year experience senior network engineer going to a Fortune 500 consulting service. Yeah. Asana, yeah.
You kind of already talked about this. By going to meetups, you can meet people. I'm looking at smaller companies mostly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my big problem is trying to find a person in the company that I can actually talk to. Do you have any other strategies or suggestions on how to reach people that way?
If you can just talk to people, so if you can get in the same room as somebody, if you can talk to them and carry a conversation in tech, that is a huge competitive advantage. A lot of people that are going for dev roles and engineering roles, you get them on the phone and they'll give you one-word answers, or they'll talk for half an hour and give you no more information than you had when they started. If you can carry a conversation with somebody, if you can just walk up to an engineering manager at a picnic or a bar or a meetup and just talk to them, top of the stack right away. So as far as targeting them and getting in the same room as them, I mean, honestly, Eventbrite and Meetup are really good resources. Just go to industry events, go to any place where they're giving a talk, if they're presenting on whatever technology that they're using or the state of the art of Docker or whatever it is, just be in the room and go introduce yourself.
When using or listening to technology, especially if you're getting started,
yeah,
how much exposure to the technology before you list it, or is there any way in which you say, okay, I've done a lot in this, or I've had some exposure to this? Because there's a really broad range.
Yes. And you're selling yourself a little bit. So you do kind of want to overestimate a little bit. So if you're comfortable with something, if you've used it and you feel like you could learn it pretty quickly, list it. I mean, it makes my job a little bit more difficult, but I'm here to help you. So yeah, occasionally, so like not necessarily in the tech roles so much, but in like a project management role, like sometimes one particular technology will be the make or break. So if, I'm not going to say the name of the client, but if there's a company in town that uses one particular type of project management software called Primavera, there's like 10 people in the world that know how to use Primavera. So if you used it 5 years ago for 6 months, they might honestly hire you. So overestimate, list it anyway, and then when you get on the phone with me, I'll talk through what your experience is and judge whether or not you're good enough to be submitted to the position. Cool? All right. Should I just Irish exit then? That's all I got. Thanks.
Correct. What's his name, Brian? That's right. Yeah. Do you have a no. Yeah, I can. My email address? Okay. Yeah, and your like that smug. Yeah. Except for anybody showed up. I did notice that you absolutely, yes. Trust the land name, right?
Right. That was thinking about yesterday, because I guess I like the beauty side. I was thinking about Malcolm. I was like, has it been a year or honestly?
Last night. So so and perfect. Even better. And got my
Hello, Martin. Yeah, it's nice meeting you. I have those yes. So yeah, I'm looking for. I have a CS degree and a few years of experience. I was working at IBM before, and yeah, so I'm not really sure what I'm looking for there. I want to do something different. Definitely looking for smaller companies. So yeah, if anything Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for the time.
Thank you very much. That was probably one of the best talks we've gotten in a while. Oh, really? Yeah, very specific. Very good. I was terrified of the show for this presentation. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do some work on it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got it. Hi.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. Yeah. Thanks. So. Like people, I'd say. Meeting people like
Yeah. It's your job. Okay. You're each getting paid to do it. Every connection is made.
No matter what level.
Exactly. Yeah. Nice kind of flaw. Value in that word. Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
If that helps you, take the edge off a little bit.
Okay.
Not so much that you're sloppy when
Yeah, I don't anything like that. Okay. Okay, yeah.
First vodka. Not that I know of.
I've heard top shelf stuff because it's not as much.
Oh.
It's a good place right here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's stuff to add to your presentation. Yes, recommendation of. I'm not putting it in the line, right? You can only get this from. That was good to see you.
You too. I just wanted to say hi. That was a great presentation. I think a lot of people got a lot out of it. I was gonna ask some questions down there, but I wouldn't. I messed up.
Just on the clothesline.
I was like, hey, it's not a presentation. That was great though.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And my close friend, right? Yeah. Yeah, it was great. Good to see you again. I'll probably see you at some more meetups.
I'm sure, yeah. All over the place.
Yeah.
I am. Like I said, just new some job search. Haven't worked for a long time, so I have.